This is Droom from Fullmoon Wanderer, and you're watching Richard Metal Fan.
Hey, what's up, guys? Bringing you guys another episode of RichardMetalFan interviews, calling from Zoom, and I'm here with Full Moon Wanderer, or the man behind the project, Droom. So, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thanks for the invitation.
Anytime, anytime. So, kind of the form of the show is I want to talk about like your musical history and sort of do a rundown of your discography, but take you back to young Droom. So, growing up, what were like the first bands that got you into metal and what made you want to play an instrument?
Really good question. Heavy metal has always been my life, even since I was a little kid. I remember my mom letting me rent 80s horror movies. And even then, for example, like Nightmare on Elm Street had Dokken Dream Warriors. Sleepaway Camp 2 had a song by Flotsam and Jetsam. Movies like Trick or Treat or Black Roses always had, inspired me to have a heavy metal look or seek out heavy metal albums. As a kid, of course, Metallica, Megadeth, Pantera, Slayer, classic Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest. These are all the type of bands that I was listening to even around 10 years old. But around 1994, there was that famous Kerrang magazine said, metal's gone too far, talking about the Norwegian black metal scene. And it was really tough to find black metal albums, especially from Norway or Sweden or Finland. But then the Century Media CD Firestarter came out, and since then I was hooked. And yeah, I would say I always wanted to play heavy metal, be a guitarist, vocalist as a kid. But I would say that actually, to be honest, when I heard the album it came out in 1994, Cross
Yeah,
Purposes by Black Sabbath.
that's an
That
underrated
album, I
album.
heard Bobby Rondinelli playing drums, made me want to just do all of it. So it's just been a kind of lifelong journey, metal journey here in the US and then living in Europe, back and forth. And I'm still doing it now.
Nice. So I was like doing my research. I believe one of your first bands, if not your first band, was, forgive me if I butchered it, Ilvestgrol. Well, tell me about that. Like I'm always curious to like the like sort of like the whole in-depth of that band.
Sure. My first recordings, I think for my 15th birthday, I got a Tascam 4-track recorder and had a project even before that called Waves of Destruction. And I kind of did everything on my own. In fact, I even would take the Tascam with a mic into the high school's music room and hop on the drums and record the drum track there. Il Vescrol started with me working after high school at a record store. That's when people still bought CDs and cassette tapes. And I was a huge Burzum fan, and a coworker hated Burzum and was a Mayhem fan. And this was back in the day when I guess Burzum and Mayhem fans hated each other. And we were kind of arguing. And he said, well, look at you, any idiot can make Burzum music. Yeah, well, any person can, make a Mayhem riff. So we kind of just started making music together. The irony is that someone heard this conversation who lived, I'm originally from the San Francisco Bay Area, the East Bay, and a guy named Marshall who was getting into metal and black metal. He's like, hey, I've got some equipment. I actually do different types of music. And it was like, what type of music? And he was like, industrial music. I don't really listen to industrial. I'm like, what's the band's name? I was like, Zyklon 9. I was like, oh, okay. And then I went to my friend, hey, this dude's in some band called Zyklon 9. And she's like, oh, crap, that's a big name band. He actually, so Marshall Nero was kind of the drummer, our first drummer for that band. And that's kind of how our I guess, name or claim to fame got started, because we were having him just as our drummer, be able to play a lot of shows that maybe wouldn't have booked us otherwise. So we would play maybe industrial clubs, definitely metal clubs. Marshall Nero left. We got another drummer that really opened the gate. And with Il Vescro, we opened up for bands like Black Dahlia Murder and Goat Whore
Oh
and some
wow.
other bands too. And, personalities clashed. and we broke up. But that's how I got into Droomsteig. And I think probably if people are watching me, probably know more of me from Droomsteig.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me about like Droomsteig because I know you for it's pretty much like all you. Tell me about that like first demo, the dungeon demo from 2007.
I actually was doing music before that because when Elvesco broke up, I stayed in touch with Marshall or Nero from Zyklon 9, and he was interested in producing some of the ideas that I had. So even before Dungeon, I think there was a few demos before that. Um, that being said, with Elvesco, in top showing my age here, Tower Records was nice enough to, at least in the Bay Area, have our Elvesco CD in the store and people could listen to it. And because of that, I just kind of kept some of those ideas and that momentum. Droomsteig was really my ode to Moonblood and Vlad Tepes. Of course, I always like classic heavy metal, even hair metal. But I think by the time I was playing Droomsteig, a lot of bands outside of Scandinavia were getting attention. And there was a cult presence about Moonblood and Vlad Tepes. So I think those are my biggest inspiration with Droomsteig. But of course, I think I kind of found my own sound. I would say Droomsteig and Dungeon uh, was, I would say, if Immortal and Inquisition and Iron Maiden had a three-way bastard stepchild, that's kind of what Droomsteig maybe would sound like. And maybe people that listen to it or hate it maybe can agree or disagree, but that'd be my elevator pitch.
All right. Then flash forward many years to 2022, forming Full Moon Wanderer. How'd the idea to start like that kind of project come to be?
After COVID, I was living in Eastern Europe, and I'm an American citizen, but you can be 3 months in the Schengen zone, Western Europe, and then 3 months out. And that's kind of what I was doing. When COVID hit, I actually was in Skopje, Macedonia, ready to make some music with a local musician in Skopje, Macedonia. But with COVID, I had to leave, lost touch. I relocated back in the US and I wasn't off grid, but I bought a property that was an unincorporated area. And because of that, I was really able to build a music studio, have my own drum kit, bass guitar, vocals. And Full Moon Wanderer just came because I was isolated, living semi off grid, semi
Yeah,
not,
still in
and just
Wyoming.
having that isolation, solitude, really, typical black metal stereotype of snow, winter, frost, isolation, solitude. And that's what, it helped me really get back into it. And kind of, I would argue the difference between Full Moon Wanderer's sonic identity versus Droomsteig was Droomsteig's more black metal with a little heavy metal touches. Full Moon Wanderer is straight on a mix of black and heavy metal or heavy black and metal, however you want to call it.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. But tell me about making like the self-titled Full Moon Wanderer, which came out in 2022. So how was like the whole like writing and recording process for that come to be?
Yeah, I would say looking back, it sounded like a fun, but the process was hell. It's in northwestern Wyoming, really cold, really isolated.
Yeah.
I just had me and my dog, and part of it was great. Another part of it was kind of hell. I guess that's what we want, really, when you're making metal music. Basically, I had a bunch of material, and the trick was really of all the material I had to combine it, really get strong songs, memorable songs with catchy riffs. And I was doing it all myself. And while I loved the writing and recording process, I've always hated mixing and mastering. So that definitely was a trial by fire. It was a great experience, kind of a hellish experience, but I think pressure and hate make diamonds. So of all the projects and works I've done, the Full Moon Wanderer album from 2022 is like the thing I'm most proud of. That being said, I was talking to a record label I don't want to mention. They wanted me to change a few things and I did. And the 2022 version was exactly what the record label wanted, but at the end they changed their mind. So I actually went back. So what you hear now, if you went to Bandcamp or YouTube, you're going to hear a 2024 redone version of that album. A lot of people don't know, and I think probably a lot of people that few people that either talk to me or like it say they prefer the 2024 version, which is on Bandcamp now. And I think the reason is I think I incorporated more heavy metal elements in the newer version, where the record label, the 2022 version, wanted just more black metal approach, which is understandable because their record, they've got to sell stuff.
Right. Right. And going into still talking about like the formation of Full Moon Wanderer, was the idea to sort of like take what you learned from Scroll and Strike into that, or did with this project you wanted to like completely separate it and start with like a clean slate?
That's a really good question. I think when a lot of black metal musicians still have like 5, 10, 15 projects, and maybe most of them sound alike, and maybe one or two maybe sound different. I would say that Full Moon Wanderer for me is really trying to mix together my biggest inspiration, which is classic heavy metal, hair metal, and black metal. I definitely learned a lot with Elvescroll. I think for people that don't know, I was always good friends with the guys from Bonal, Brandon and Marco, and everyone knows who Bonal. They're also from the East Bay, San Francisco Bay Area originally. They had a very punkish black metal sound, and I would say that. And before that, they're in a band called Belabor, and that's how I know them. And I was never a punk rocker, but Ilvescroll really was a mix of punk rock and black metal, simply because I just wasn't that talented at the time. Um, there's things I like about Elvescroll. There's things I like about Dreamstike and Fullmoon Wanderer, while learning for some of the things. It's really combining my love as a heavy metal fan from the get-go, from Black Sabbath to Iron Maiden to Motley Crue, to Loudness from Japan, to Immortal, to Inquisition, to all the various stuff that I listen to today. And putting my own style in. I think one thing you're going to get from me is I always try to focus or incorporate maybe mistakes, wrong notes, off tempos, off keys. For me, that's why I love going to a concert. And I think there's something to be said about playing something to perfection on an album. I understand that. But for me, I always like that rawness, that kind of uneasiness that you get with mistakes, wrong
Yeah.
notes, playing off key.
To show like
Um,
the human side of it.
Yeah, because for me that's what I like in metal. And I understand there people have different tastes, and someone want to play it perfectly. You've got to be on tune and this and that. Uh, that's cool, but for me, I don't know. It's more metal if it's wrong notes and off tune, off key, off kilter.
Nice. And then talking about the album, of course, with this, and of course with all the other projects, I know you're pretty much like a multi-instrumentalist. You pretty much play everything. With playing like all these different instruments, do you find like you're able to express like different sides of you creatively?
Yes, most definitely. It's tough because when I'm in recording session, even beforehand, I've got to, I still make mistakes. Obviously, I'm a horrible musician in everything I play, but I have my own style. That being said, yeah, I always, my day starts out practice the drums, then practice the bass, practice guitar, then even practice vocal or test vocal lines with it. So I say I think I have the most fun playing the drums. I'm probably the best at playing bass. I'm probably the world's worst guitarist, but I like that because that allows me really to get those wrong notes, that dissonance, that discord in metal or heavy metal. Creativity wise, I actually probably write most of my material of just guitar and vocals by myself. Um, but I would say as I've improved playing drums, there are some ideas that just by playing the drums alone or just practicing the drums alone kind of allow me to say, well, okay, this riff would sound better if it's longer or shorter or incorporates this rhythm or groove. So it's a balance, but I would say I guess I'll always be a guitarist by heart, but um, being a drummer and a bassist has helped songwriting skills from a non-guitar standpoint.
Totally. That's great. And so talking about sort of like the lyrics, because I feel like the lyrics are just like really fucking metal. So when it comes to like the lyrical process, do you have to like put yourself in like a certain mind frame in order to come up with lyrics, or they just come very naturally and organically?
It's a good question. I think with lyrics, they're always going to depend with the artist and the band style, or even the genre. With black metal, it's always about winter, frost, snow, solitude, hatred, all the cool stuff. And I think a lot of metal is like that. For me, I do tend to put my spin on things. Um, Lyrics are important, but also the rhythm. So, some people say, oh, it's all about the rhythm, not the lyrics. Some people say it's all about the lyrics and not the rhythm. I do think both are important. And of course, growing up, worshiping all the Norwegian and Swedish and Finnish bands, but also the Greek bands as well, and a lot of the Polish bands. When I think of black metal, I do, of course, think of uh, winter, snow, forests, solitude, hatred. And I think people can say or sing or scream whatever they want, but I think for me, my lyrics have always been either fantasy lyrics, winter lyrics, uh, ancient sagas, medieval literature. I think that kind of just fits the mythos of black metal. Lyrics are important, and the rhythm and delivery of those lyrics in the song are important to me. And some people say, "Oh, that's just generic." Well, it's not broke. Don't fix those black metal lyrics.
Yeah, and of course, like you mentioned, like your guitar playing, I feel like they have like the different vibes, like very dissonant and also very rhythmic bass. So when it comes to like laying down the riffs, like what kind of inspires it? Do you have to like list here figure out like a riff a beat in your head and you sort of like jam to that? Like what's like the process to like work like tracking like guitars and writing and stuff?
Sure. I would say that for me, and people are it's gonna make people cringe, but uh, I would say the writing and the recording process goes, okay, I'm a guitarist. Uh, let's create that guitar riff. Really do feel that. I know there's like that song, "The Heart of Rock and Roll" is the beat. Maybe that's rock and roll, but for metal, the focus for me has always been guitar. So practice guitar, play guitar. Let's get a guitar riff, something I really feel. Then okay, let's put a vocal line to kind of, well, how does this riff speak to me? What's a good way to complement this riff? Should the vocals stay in the same rhythm and notes, or should be a completely different rhythm? And then after that, I'm thinking, okay, what's the bass line? What's going to be a kind of a good bass line to kind of keep the riff or the lyrics moving forward? I really do think like the bass guitar, as maybe simplistic as it can be, or maybe even unheard of black metal, does keep the song moving forward. And then drums are actually the last thing, but simply because I think drums really bring to life whatever I guitar riff, whatever vocal line, whatever consistent bass groove is going on. And that really is also the recording process. What I do is for recording, and probably people don't care about this if they're not really into the technical side. I like to keep, even though I always play off tune, the guitar and the bass and the vocals, at least a metronome in the background, but I play drums without a metronome. So that's how I kind of get keeping the riffs and the bass and the vocals kind of somewhat on time, but getting that off kilter sound, playing drums completely off metronome. And that's kind of my style. And that's what I'm known for. I guess kind of like Akhenaten. People say Akhenaten from Jesus Iscariot is like, a horrible drummer, but I listen, well, that's like really good stuff. Makes, it seems like Dream Theater compared to my stuff, but I'm a big Jesus Iscariot fan as well.
Yeah, you pretty much answered like the next couple questions about like the bass and drum recording because I know you've heard your fair share of bass player jokes and memes and stuff, but just like you pretty much don't gravitate towards the flashy bass playing, but I feel like you find ways to link what the guitars are doing with the melody and what the drums are doing with the rhythm.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, I would say bass is important. I know you don't hear it in black metal that much, but I think you feel it. And I think what I do is, I think for every time that maybe the bass is playing the same notes or chord progression as the guitar, I do like to change and play something completely different. But it's a balance, because if the bass is playing something completely different than the guitar, then you're not feeling that emphasis between the guitar riff. Now, but if you are playing the same exact thing, then yeah, there might be a little gap if you think of like maybe the sonic layout of the song. So it's a balance. I really do try to do both, play what the have the bass do what the guitar is doing, but also do different rhythms and different notes at the same time. I know it's not technical stuff, but that's kind of my
Yeah.
style.
Yeah, definitely. And then talking about like the band itself, have you all started like have you all played live at all yet, or is it just like a strictly a studio kind of thing?
I would like to play live, and of course, there's talks with other musicians. I was out of the country for 3 months this year, working with a musician to kind of get this live. It didn't work out because life happens. I think he had a family and a job, and we were planning these things, and it just didn't come to fruition. But most definitely, I'm actually lined up and wanted people don't know, but Richard was nice enough to kind of wait for this interview because I've been on the road in the process of moving. So I'm actually doing what I did back in before 2022, moving to have a place to have my own music recording room, and I've got a bunch of material lined up to record. So the next steps really are to record the material that I've written for the last few years, even that just never got recorded, but also to look for musicians. You know, I love playing live. I love playing live with Ilvescu, and I did play various concerts in the Texas area with Droomsteig. I was very lucky enough to find a drummer that kind of understood what I wanted to do with Droomsteig. And so with Droomsteig, we actually opened up for Imprecation, Morbid 666, Behimeron, and you know we've played in or with Droomsteig. I played with in Houston various times, San Antonio, Dallas, and those are just great memories. And unfortunately, uh, Ruben Elizondo or Vomit from Imprecation and Adumas and Morbid 666 passed away, but he was really supportive of Droomsteig, and he definitely helped really book shows. Found a drummer. He wasn't the drummer, but I actually had a really cool time jamming, playing music with Ruben, and actually, just to play guitar and have Vomit, Ruben Elizondo, Houston metal legend, practice and jam with them. That was really cool. And that's a thing in life where you can have like a great circle, maybe a scene in your area, maybe a drummer, someone passes away, some band breaks up, and that scene kind of falls apart. But I would say that the few areas where I've lived, whether that's in Texas or in Seattle, I've always found myself really lucky to be around uh, metal musicians, black metal musicians in America. And there was a time where if your band, especially black metal band, wasn't from Norway or Sweden, maybe Finland was okay, maybe Greece is okay, people wouldn't listen to you. And nowadays, I guess people think, okay, oh yeah, there's American sound and the Polish sound and Brazilian sound. People are more open to listening to bands or different black metal bands around the world, and I think now it's kind of cool. That band from Timbuktu, but back in the day, it wasn't as easy being a American black metal band. But nowadays, paying my dues, I look back and I'm like, oh man, America, we really do have some great black metal bands, and I've hung out and played and drank a few beers with a lot of them. So I definitely, rest in peace and hails to all the fallen metal legends that we've lost a long time. Because heavy metal is my life, and I go to metal archives every day. Sadly, because if there's a musician that passed away, I knew their album, then I want to listen to it. But more and more musicians are dying, whether it's suicide or overdoses or even car accidents. And it's important to carry their listen to their music, their message on, but also to continue this. People say, oh, don't you feel you're too old to play metal? Aren't you past your prime? Like, yeah, that's the point. I think that's even more metal to do it when you're past your prime, and that's what Full Moon Wander is all about.
Yeah, definitely no age at all. Just keep fucking doing it.
But I would say that there's a lot of bands that they've had their first second album was famous and they kept going on. A lot of my favorite bands, the music they're making now is some of my favorite. And there's always like, oh, the first album, only the first album's great, only the first demo is great.
Yeah, black
Sometimes,
metal first
but for
album.
me, uh, yeah, but I would say I would tell people watching that if you got a favorite band and that band is still going, they're still playing, they're still releasing albums, do it, support them because uh, sometimes life's short sometimes, and you there's so many bands that I wanted to see or play music with, but maybe in talks with, but maybe they happened or they broke up or they passed away. So yeah, metal till you die and just support it till you die. And that's been one of my mantras in life.
Nice. So kind of also in the end to sort of wrap things up, what's next for Full Moon Wanderer? I know you got some like unreleased music in the works and I know you're planning on moving soon. Are you still going to be like in Wyoming or are you going to move to Texas? Like what's next for you in the near future?
Going back to Wyoming, got a place secured, and I'm going to be recording, and doing some more recording. And I think, there's that French term avant-garde, which means kind of before rules. And I think my goal right now is to really just go back to what I did with even Ilvescural. I was too young and dumb to understand. Oh, you can't play this, or that's not the right scale. Do it. If it sounds cool, do it. Don't worry what other people think. And that's kind of my goal. I've got a lot of material that I've created, a lot of material that I've been practicing. So now that I've moved, start recording. And I think the best place for it to catch up with me, I know it was MySpace back in the day, showing my age. Uh, but yeah, Bandcamp, YouTube, that's I always like, I don't really care about the record label. If there is a record label that likes what they want to hear and they want to print like a vinyl cassette CD version for collectors, which is important too, great. I'm just going to put music out and keep doing it. And if and when I find local musicians or nearby musicians that want to play live, let's have a few beers and let's do it. So yeah,
Oh,
recording, releasing music online, and then cross my fingers, playing live and pissing people off.
but thank you, man, for this conversation. It's just any final words you want to say to the viewers that are watching us to close this out?
Yeah, Richard Metal fan. I think you're doing a great job here, and guys, be sure to like, share, and subscribe all this stuff because this guy um, he reached out to me and I really do appreciate it. And he really has interviewed. I started going back, and I'm really impressed. You've interviewed a lot of the bands I grew up listening to, like Amorphis and Oystingen Groom for Borknagar. I was like, whoa, that guy did an
Nice.
interview here.
Yeah,
So
definitely. I
I
describe like
wanted to.
Borknagar as like a Norwegian mastodon.
Yeah, Borknagar, Borknagar, like every album sounds different, and they're kind of like an
Yeah.
unsung hero because yeah, they're not like Dark Throne or Gorgoroth, but for people that like Norwegian metal, check out Borknagar. I long time ago hung out and partied with like half those guys in like the second lineup. But as for Full Moon Wanderer, I'm Droom, Full Moon Wanderer. Check out Bandcamp, check out YouTube. Keep an eye out because this winter I'm going to be releasing a lot of stuff. So, Richard Metal fan, thanks so much, man. You rock, you rule.
Thank you. So everybody, Droom from Full Moon Wanderer, and we'll see you next time.